Hi there, I'm Martin Adlington, and it's just on 7 o'clock in the evening here in Browns Bay, and I've just returned from a small nocturnal expedition, dumpster diving, trash trawling and freeganing, and I thought I'd like to share with you what I found this evening. First of all, in the freeganing department, you found some things to eat. Nice loaf of wholemeal bread. Smells very nutty, nice and solid. That was in the trash outside of the supermarket. Or not in the trash, they have a bin now for baked goods. Also in there was a packet of eclairs. I'm not a great one for sweets, but I'm partial to a chocolate eclair now and again with my cup of tea in the afternoon, so there's a bit of afternoon smoko for me. And then I moved on down the road outside of one of the cafes, because tonight, being Monday, they put out the newspapers and that sort of thing. So I went to one of my usual spots and sorted out last week's morning newspapers. I don't mind reading them a week later. It's just the same crap in there all the time anyway. I have that with my cup of tea in the morning. I used to have a subscription for this newspaper. They used to cost me $500 a year. So I figure I'm saving $500 a year, which is the registration on the van, and in 10 years that's $5,000. So in 20 years I could buy another van with what I've saved on getting the newspapers out of the trash, just to give people an idea of how much money you can save by doing what I do. Then, on the way back, with it being newspaper disposal or paper disposable night, there's boxes of papers. There's boxes of papers all over the place, and some have books in. There was a box of books outside the old folks, the old folks' home, and not much of interest in there. But there was this book, The Junior Basket Maker. Now, basket making is a lost art. This is all cane work. It's really quite beautiful. Here's all the tools. Here's some illustrated pictures or illustrations. Interestingly enough, one of the new members at the men's shed I belong to, has told me that he was a basket maker or a willow worker, a cane worker in Christchurch, making furniture and all kinds of things. So I picked that up. That's a lost craft. It's a dying art. I thought that was interesting. Also in there was a visitor's book. Now, so this is a book where people who visited the Browns Bay Senior Citizens Association have put the dates, their names, their addresses, and a comment in. Now, this book goes back to 1966, which I thought was quite interesting. That's 50 years. The first entry, 19th of the 10th, 66, was Marjorie King from Takapuna, and her remark was, "Very nice." Then there follow other people from Browns Bay, Rothsay Bay, all local people. Raglan, here's some people from Raglan. They came on the 19th of the 10th, 66. Edna Headley from Raglan and Norman Headley from Raglan, and they both said beautiful club rooms. 1966. So then we go quite a few entries for 1966 page there, and then we go to 1967. Here's William S. Curry from Featherston Street in Palmerston North, who says a wonderful clubhouse. And Kathleen Campbell from Hawthorne, Victoria, that's Australia, says nice people. And then we have some very wobbly handwriting from a Dave Arnott with no address. He says, you've made a lovely job. So we have people from, mainly from New Zealand, Milford, that's local. Santa Claus in here we are, 24th of the 12th, 1966. Santa Claus was here. Merry Christmas to all at the senior citizens, and thanks for the week's hospitality. There we are, some really international visitors. What else have we got here? Sandringham, that's over the south side of the bridge. What else have we got? Titirangi, E. Murray from Ridge Road in Titirangi says a happy day. So someone enjoyed their day's outing. They must have come here for day's outings. Maybe have a morning tea and then a walk on the beach or whatever. Ellerslie, Epsom, all local people. 1967, we go through, a lot of people through. 67. And it keeps on going, 67, 68, into the 70s, 75. The number of entries drop off into the 70s, 79, 78, very slowly through the 80s, not many, and then very sadly we get to the 80s, very, very few, 86, and then this isn't an entry until 1990. There's only 3 entries for 1990, and then there isn't the last entry. There's a gap from 90 to 3 entries for 1990. There's a gap to the last entry, which was made in 2006. Yana Kite from Torbay, who says awesome books. She can't spell because she's missed out the middle E from awesome. However, that's not a major deal. So that's maybe why they threw it away. It became defunct. So anyway, they biffed out this piece of social history. Okay, speaking of social history, my next call was the SPCA op shop, and from there they throw away a lot of books that they don't want, the people that are donated, and they just quite frankly can't sell. I don't really blame them. So social history with these 2 books here, both American books. There's a book here by a fellow called Man Martin called Paradise Dogs, a novel. It's about Florida. It's a surreal and hilarious take on pre-Disney Florida. So there's quite a few reviews. It's a novel. It's about some guy having marital problems. this guy's from Georgia. One of the reviews says, Man Martin must have slipped across the Okefenokee to get Paradise Dogs so right and so damn funny. It's like a retro multifold postcard from the middle of the Sunshine State before Disney aired its way in. So that could be a good read. Bit of American social history. It's got a great cover. It's got a old-fashioned diner, a really nice two-door car there, and then a pink alligator. That looks like it might be a good fun read on the road. And then also in there was a book called Huron Crossing by an American author, Carl Schlesinger, a novel of the Nez Perces. So it seems that this fellow Schlesinger is an anthropology lecturer, and he's written this book on the sad and story of one of the American Indian tribes. It's a historical novel, so it's fact and fiction combined. It's not usually the sort of thing I read, but seeing it's by an anthropologist, it's probably going to be pretty reasonably accurate. So the Nez Perce, the events to which what's the term? The key character is an eyewitness to are recorded in history, depicted by Carl Schlesinger in compelling detail. They look at the Nez Perce March of 1877, which covered 1,200 miles across some of the most rugged mountain ranges in North America. 6 bands, numbering 800 men, women and children, herded more than 3,000 horses and fought 13 engagements with armies sent to intercept them on their way to the Canadian border, where they sought a last refuge. Schlesinger deftly weaves together their known story with vividly drawn personalities and a keen understanding of life and belief in a time and place long gone. Yes, truly long gone. Quite a haunting cover. The Rockies, I guess, or maybe not. I don't know. I'm not quite sure where they went, but I shall find out. That's a bit more my cup of tea. These are both ex-library books which have been cancelled. People have bought for maybe 50 cents and then they've passed them on to the op shop and then they've been biffed out because, in their considered opinion, nobody would be bothered to pay 50 cents for them to read. I found a pen in the amongst all the books and that at the op shop. There was a really nice pen which works. It's a nice writing pen, only a biro, but it's a very soft biro and it works pretty well. So there we have it, the dumpster dive, trash trawl and freeganing for just one evening out of many. That's what I do. Why do I do it? I just am amazed at what people throw away. One of my main motivations was a story told to me 20 or 30 years ago by a friend of mine who was an antique dealer in Edinburgh, where I lived for many years. And this lady had run an antique shop for 20 odd years, and she kept a shoebox into which she put all the broken estate jewellery. So you've got 9 carat, 18 carat, 22 carat, broken stuff that couldn't sell. So she was putting this stuff aside for years and years and years into not one shoebox but several, and that was going to be her retirement fund. So she kept these shoeboxes in a safe place in her apartment in Edinburgh, and then the time came to move. So she had a lot of stuff in there, and it was quite a stressful period moving around. And she thought, gee, I've got to keep these boxes of gold safe. So her brilliant idea was to put them into a garbage bag. Okay, you can see what's coming, can't you? She put them into a garbage bag so that no one would think of looking in there and discovering that there was, I don't know how many kilos of gold in there. So, you can figure this out for yourself. She moved. A week later, 10 days later, 10 days later, she goes to look for the trash bag with the gold in, but it's gone. So whenever I go past a garbage bin, skip, a cardboard box by the side of the road, a dumpster, I often wonder, what's in there? I wonder what people have thrown away, whether intentionally or unintentionally. So today we found all intentional discards, and I found some food, I found some good reading, and I found some social history. Thank you for staying with me through this ramble. I'll do it again. I do it every week. I enjoy it. I know a lot of other people do it. I think it's very interesting and very relevant at this time in history for us to be aware of what being a throwaway consumer society means. It means that a lot of stuff goes into the rubbish that maybe shouldn't order. Good night and God bless. Oh, by the way, I forgot, in the visitor's book was this piece of card, which is from Rainbow Springs in New Zealand. It's very 1960s, 1970s graphics. There's a palm tree, a trout, the native maiden. They're riding the rapids here on a boat of some sort. Pine trees. Pine trees over here, riding the rapids over here. Rainbow Springs. This is a geothermal area which has been visited by Europeans for 160 years, and of course was used by the Maori for healing and cooking for hundreds of years before that. So here's a real piece of 20th century kitsch. I was going to say quiche, kitsch. And then on the back, there's a bit more social history. It says autographs up here, but this is a list of people who attended the 8th annual tour to New Plymouth, Wanganui, Taupo and Rotorua. And there must have been a photograph, because it says here front row from left, and then there's a list of names. Oh, then the second row, and then back row, and then in front. Unfortunately, most unfortunately, we don't have that. I don't have that photograph. But this was in the book, and you just got to love it, don't you? It's I just wish we could see those faces and maybe hear some of their stories. It's all long gone. It seems unimportant, and therefore it's thrown away. But I wonder what they got up to on that tour. I wonder what Mrs. Johnson and maybe the courier driver got up to. Eh? Or Mrs. Sullivan and Mrs. Inglebag. Mrs. Wynne, they're all Mrs. You know, what do they talk about? What do they do? What were their histories? What were their stories? Where did they come from? What did they look like? What were they wearing? Why was it such a big deal to go to New Plymouth, Wanganui, Taupo and Rotorua? The 8th annual tour. Maybe you're bored shitless by it. And good luck to you if you are. But I'm quite fascinated by it. More fool me, perhaps. More fool me. Rainbow Springs. I'm going there on a road trip later on this year, so I'll send you a digital postcard from there myself.